Why, hello there, Asari and Gentle Krogan. I am your host for this evening, Dan from Mass Effect Follower. Have you spent all day under the blistering sun of Eladin? Shivered in the desolate wastes of Vold? You look as though you could use some time to relax with like-minded company. So settle in. Pour yourself some Angaran wine. Because today, we're talking romance.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna keep that up for the entire video. So, while talking romance, it's easier to have reference points we're all familiar with. So we're going to discuss the romances of Mass Effect Andromeda by comparing them to previous BioWare romances and seeing the similarities. Let's start with the romances among your squad mates. Being the most developed characters, it makes sense that they're the most likely to catch your eye. For the Scott writers out there, that's Cora. For Sarah's, it's Liam and Jal. And for both, Vetra and Peebee. Because no Mass Effect game is complete without the possibility of Asari romance, let's look at Peebee's romance first. She's an impulsive, mischievous, free spirit who doesn't want to be tied down to silly obligations or feelings. She fits nicely into the reliable BioWare archetype of the lovable rogue. See our character archetypes video for a crash course. The link should be floating on the screen right about now-ish, I guess. Now, Peebee likes it fun and fancy-free, and is happy to have a casual relationship with Ryder, mentioning that she's discreet if you're romancing somebody else. But if you continue to pursue Peebee, you can have a committed relationship with her. If Peebee trusts you enough, she'll even open up to how much ex-girlfriend Kalinda hurt her and how emotionally abusive she was to Peebee. So, Peebee's character arc in her romance is learning to open up to Ryder and learn to trust again. In terms of previous BioWare characters, the ones she seems to resemble most are Isabella from Dragon Age, with a bit of Liara's archaeologist and Asari background thrown in. So if you foresee any tackling in your future, Peebee's your gal. Vetra Nyx is a delightful addition to the series as our first female Tyrian squad mate. She's charming, confident, and resourceful, but also overprotective and a bit insecure. Like many Turians, duty is ingrained in her character, despite being abandoned by her father and having to be a surrogate parent to her little sister. How does that relate to duty? Because she's had to fight and scrape by to make a living for her and Sid. It means that she's based her self-esteem on what she can do, rather than who she is. She basically sees herself as a tool to achieve an end. So if Ryder pursues a romance with her, she can't believe the Pathfinder would look at her as anything more than a means to an end. The previous BioWare character she reminds me most of is, bizarrely, Miranda, between the relationship with her sister and the shady background, with a bit of Nyrene's scrappy Turian nature thrown in. In a nutshell, she's got a few shades of the defrosting Ice Queen, but a much softer incarnation. She's utterly adorable. Seriously, why isn't there a quest to find that damn lamp of hers? Vetra, the Turian lady who will find you steak 2.5 million light years away. She's also my favorite. I'm Dan, and my views do not necessarily reflect those of Mass Effect Follower, but they totally should. And on to Sarah's choices for a space bay among squad mates. I am so sorry. Liam fits rather neatly into the BioWare tradition of the first squad mate being a snarky everyman who's basically your best friend and also has a slight issue with putting you on a pedestal. He desperately wants everyone to get along, but easily gets frustrated and pushes too hard when things don't go his way. Really, of all the squad mates on board the Tempest, he's the one that feels the most normal, with more of a friendly, jovial spark than the other male human squad mates in the series. Like Peebee, you can have a one-night stand with him without it affecting your friendship or any other romances. But if you choose to pursue him, you'll find him an incredibly sweet romance. He tends to bring up some shades of Alistair from Dragon Age, maybe with some self-confidence and some of Garrus's cowboy cop traits thrown in, even if he's a far more optimistic take on it than Garrus ever was. For those not quite sold on him, just give his loyalty mission a go. It's easily one of the most fun missions in the game, complete with a Star Wars reference. Liam, the easygoing guy you can curl up and watch bad movies with. A slice of the familiar in a galaxy far, far away. Jal Ahmad Darav, ye of the Instant Rabbit fanbase. Seriously, the second BioWare released a still image of him, people were clamoring to romance him. And the Sarah writers among you got your wish. Because apparently in this instance, love can transcend species, but if you have quads instead of ovaries, apparently Jal's not interested. Which is kind of a shame, considering that he was originally rumored to be a bisexual romance, but hey, who knows what BioWare may patch into the game later. Being a member of the newest of the alien races in Mass Effect, we don't really find out too much about Angaran culture or history, considering that the Scourge wiped out most of the Angarans' knowledge of their own history. Not to mention we've only had one game so far to really explore their culture. What's most focused on is their openness with their emotions, their large and tight-knit families, and their love of hugging. Jal is actually a slight subversion to the BioWare companion formula. While he is technically the proud, honorable warrior, the archetype he fits more closely is actually the sweetheart, admittedly with some of Thane's exotic alienness thrown in. Despite being the last member to join your team on the Tempest, he's always the first to advocate for the moral or sympathetic course of action. But let's hope him taking apart his dead pet was a once-off thing. His romance arc is incredibly lovely, taking you to meet his family and then taking you out to a beautiful waterfall to confess his undying love for you. But wait, wasn't there something desperately sad that happened at a waterfall in a BioWare game before? I could swear that was a thing once. Oh well, I must have dreamt it. Although I do suddenly have a compulsion to cry into a tub of ice cream. Moving on to Scott's choices among squad mates. Next up is Cora Harper, our elusive huntress. You get it? You get it? Elusive? Because... But in all seriousness, Cora is, at least initially, very defined by her duty and her role. She is the de facto second-in-command to be Pathfinder. And due to your dad falling victim to the video game dad syndrome, one thing leads to another and hey, you're Pathfinder now. Not the best introduction to your lady love when you're essentially stealing her job for her due to nepotism. But if Vetra only has some very soft shades of defrosting Ice Queen, Cora took the lion's share of the bold strokes. Dutiful and calm, Cora idolizes the Asari and strives to live her life by their values. Which makes sense, as they were the first people to truly accept her after her incredibly powerful biotic abilities manifested. As expected, Cora shares the most character DNA with Miranda, with some of Kaiden's biotic woes sprinkled in. If you fancy stopping to smell the roses sometime, Cora might just be the girl for you. Expanding to non-squad mate romances on the Tempest, that boils down to Gil for Bro Rider and Suvi for Sis Rider. I guess my long-held desire to romance Natalie Dormer's beautiful voice will wait for another game. Fun, flirty, and a mean poker player, Gil Brody is the resident grease monkey of the Tempest. And how does he flaunt this carefree personality? Why, by telling Ryder how much he wants to have kids on the first date, naturally. Okay then. Seriously though, Gil is a sweetie, but can be a bit hard and heavy with the family and commitment stuff for some. To me, he kind of feels like Steve Cortez and James Vega kind of got blended together, and not in the fanfic way. You have the no-ties, laissez-faire James Vega attitude, tied into a very sweet-natured guy who just wants a family to settle down with. Gil, for those who want the white picket fence, look no further than this cutie patootie. And lastly aboard the Tempest we have Suvi Anwar, one of the easiest to see her origins from a character standpoint. Take Ashley's religious faith and Samantha Trainor's adorkable science nerd nature, and you have Suvi, with flaming red hair and a lovely Scottish accent to boot.
Also, the accent. The accent is, I mean, it's not the only thing, but, okay, I should just go over there to the piloting thing.
Kill me now.
Suvi, her love of science and the universe will easily win you over. Just make sure to keep an eye on her around strange rocks. As for the shore leave romances, as they've been called, we have one exclusively for Bro Rider and another two bisexual choices. So going in the order that you'll probably meet them in-game, we'll start with our resident reporter aboard the Nexus, Carrie Tavessa. Carrie is an Asari who is making a documentary that director Tan hopes will inspire the people aboard the Nexus, although your writer can ultimately decide what tone that should take. Bizarrely, Carrie is a romance you can pursue even while in a committed relationship. Not a first in a BioWare game, but she is certainly one of the first to be upfront enough to address the infidelity rather than it being a bug or an oversight. Carrie Tavessa. If you wanted Emily Wong as an Asari you can cheat with, and she's okay with that. Next up, we have the Bro Rider exclusive, Avella the Angaran. Honestly, the character she reminds me of most is Tally with Liara's archaeology background. So to woo the lovely lady, you just have to get enough dusty relics from multiple planets across the cluster. Kid stuff. But let's face it, her joy at the relics is enough of a reward even if you're not romancing her. Avella. She's cute as a button, and she'll kiss you in exchange for dusty relics. That's kind of all I have to say on that one. And finally, for all of you with pitchforks and torches out there, this is the one you've been waiting for. The unexpected romance making people swoon across the globe, Reyes Vidal. I mean, it's not difficult to see why. Between the sultry Spanish accent provided by Nicholas Bolton, the voice of Male Hawk in Dragon Age 2.
I've been stung by a bee. I think it's swelling. Maker, am I dying?
He's also fairly easy on the eyes, and has that whole bad boy who secretly wants to be a better man smuggler thing going for him. And the added bonus of having the plot of an entire planet revolving mostly around him. Of all the non-Tempest romances, his is easily the most fleshed out. And on top of that, he'll show up and give you a studly wink, and you stand basking in the admiration of the entire Helios cluster. You smooth mother... As far as previous BioWare characters, I suppose he's like Zevran from Dragon Age mixed with Liara's Shadow Broker. And providing that Reyes is the de facto king of Kadara in your playthrough, there's all sorts of narrative potential for him to return in the sequel. Hashtag make Reyes a squad mate. This hashtag is endorsed by Biofan. I just realized I kind of boiled all these characters down to a recipe. I could sell a cookbook to the fandom and make a fortune! Coming soon to all good bookstores near you! So what were your favorite romances in the game? Who surprised you, and who made you weak at the knees? Let us know in the comments below. And hey, if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in Andromeda!
If you are a fan of video game themed t-shirts, check out InsertCoinClothing.com, where you can get t-shirts themed around Mass Effect, Uncharted, Pokemon, and other games as well. To get 20% off on your order, use the promo code ICMEF20.